All right, we're taking a whirl around the world on Fresh Outlook. Our next stop is Chicago. Well, the city, as we all know, has been plagued by violence. Here are just some of the statistics from the Chicago Police Department. Last year, 2,185 people were shot and 414 killed, mostly in the city's south and west sides. This past July 4th weekend, 82 people were shot, 14 fatally, including 2 teens. And just last week, an 11-year-old girl was killed. Now, the mayor, Rahm Emanuel, says despite Chicago being named the nation's murder capital in 2012, there were 88 fewer homicides in 2013. We might add the mayor is up for re-election. So now we ask the question, what has happened to our third largest city? Joining us now, we have Dee Dee and Dr. Barr continue our discussions. And we also have, for the first time, we want to introduce you as well.
Kyle Harrington, yay! Glad
there
you're
we
here.
go. Thank you very much. I apologize for that, Kyle. We also have Dr. Ann Shibley. She lives in Chicago and is fighting for an end to gun violence. So, Kyle,
yes.
First time on the show. We thank you and welcome you here, and also Ann in Chicago. This is, in terms of just business, every time we hear something about Chicago right now, it just shakes you in your boots when you hear about these shootings.
I think the violence in a lot of major cities, Chicago, obviously, as you highlighted, being one of the leading cities in terms of this violence. This happens when you have, I believe, economic contraction, less jobs available, permanent, long, term, sustainable jobs. I think what you have is you have people, with worry and with anxiety, and then, you get into robbery and you get into an environment where people are fighting and feel as if they need to make ends meet, and I think the violence erupts more and more in these cities.
And it's also, of course, gangs out there.
Right.
The police commissioner, Gary McCarthy, of course, was running Newark police department, worked with him quite a bit. And one of the things that they've done in Chicago is they took some of the top leaders in the gangs and they kind of put them away. And so now these gangs are sort of running amok, if you will. And that's one of the other problems, that there's just so many drive-by shootings and so many innocent lives being lost because of that. But Dee Dee, now you're from out that area too. I mean, just to see Chicago being put in the same category right now as Detroit, people are talking about that.
Yeah, it's really sad. And here's the problem. Rahm Emanuel, which of course you and I saw on the Letterman show, and he was all about being Mr. Star instead of getting the job done. I think that he is the real problem. And when he advertises, hey, nobody has any guns, well, what do you think that is? That's a welcome wagon for the criminals to come in, get their guns, and promote violence and and kill people. That's why it's the murder capital of the world, because everyone knows the mayor is for gun control.
And we want to weigh in with Dr. Ann Shibley. She is a doctor in the city. She lives on the south side, and she's been very active in community policing. And Ann, we welcome you to the show.
Thank you.
So the question that we have for you is, tell us about the mood, if you can describe sort of the mood in Chicago and what folks like yourself are doing.
People in Chicago are frightened by the statistics they're seeing. It's not a pleasant place to live on the south side when you're constantly in fear. You're fear for your children, fear to be a victim of a drive-by, and the citizens of the city of Chicago stand together, work with the police, and get this problem solved.
And certainly they're doing that, but when you have such a lot of folks argue you should bring more police officers on because some of these cops are being so overworked. I mean, that's certainly a demoralized police department.
Yeah, I think there has to be a targeted approach against the gangs, and I don't think we're there yet. The mayor hasn't really perhaps done the job that he would like to do. I think he deserves a hit on this. He needs to do more effectively in gun violence and gang violence. And also I think the economy, as you say, Kyle, the economy has built up into a situation where there are too many poor people who are angry and frustrated.
And interesting, when I was watching that scene right there, this isn't going on in areas of Chicago that are necessarily, you would say, poorer or more violent. That was Lincoln Park.
Right.
These are areas in the city of Chicago that are
the Gold Coast.
That's the affluent area of Chicago. And so you're now starting to see the effects of this violence seep into communities where there is significant affluence.
And we just saw that picture of the ambulance there. They're now having a huge ambulance shortage. Also, some of the folks can't get into some of the tougher neighborhoods. They can't get drivers. So they also have another problem with that as well. Interestingly, I also heard that some of the different communities in Chicago are fighting with each other to try and get Obama's presidential library, because they think that might be something to bring in some dollars. But Kyle, this question again for you. This is just, when a city has this bad of a PR image at this point, how do you attract business back to there?
It's a great question, and we saw this, like you highlighted, with Detroit. But I think Dee Dee brings up a great point, which is this starts with the leadership within the city. So when you look at the mayor and you look at Rahm Emanuel and you look at Chicago on the whole, I think it's there is a thirst for a leader to really take a look at this violence and try and redirect the energy to, maybe less regulations, a tax environment that becomes more friendly for the entrepreneur in order to create jobs and start to turn the energy in a different direction away from this.
We also want to just check in with Ann one last time. Ann, obviously you work in the medical field, but not necessarily with children. But I was reading about how many kids have PTSD and how many kids are really suffering from just even walking to school.
We don't only just need jobs in Chicago. We need job training programs in the Chicago public schools. We need to get kids trained to be electricians, car mechanics, jobs that they can do that don't necessarily involve going to college. There are many more things that this city could be doing to get kids off the streets and into job training programs. It's beyond any one single leader. It takes many leaders, some of which I hope sometime to be one of those leaders. But moving forward, we need job training programs to get these scattered, splintered gangs from fighting each other and get them into programs so that they can work.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
And Dr. Bart, we talked about PTSD. Just these kids are so afraid, and I've seen kids in Newark, because I covered downtown Newark for 2 years. Kind of the same thing, but these kids are. What do you do for the children there?
Yeah.
Right, and I think that the outreach to the kids and making them feel more confident, job training, as our guest says, is really the way to go. We need to get these folks trained and have them have a passion for something rather than violence. And we can do it. Richmond has done a great job. The city of Richmond has reached out. They've spent money. They've had people in the community. And the gang violence is down dramatically. Well, how did they do it? They did it by outreach into the community.
Of course, that's a slightly different animal, only because Chicago is so large. Now, we don't want to be all doom and gloom, because we have some good news right now. We do. There's some. We're going to talk about the top 5 cities for growth, and let's go through this right now. If you were to guess an area that was a very heavy-duty city right now, what would you guess? What would be some?
I think Kyle should give the first guess. I bet he knows.
I don't know. I think that areas like places you wouldn't think about, but I think places like Charlotte, North Carolina, has really developed in the financial world. It's slowed down.
Come on, California boy. I was giving you an easy one here.
Number five is
San Diego,
Santa Cruz.
Santa Cruz. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're exactly areas that you wouldn't necessarily say 20 years ago that you'd be talking about. Now you're talking about. I think that plays into people really measuring lifestyle versus money. Your dollar's going a lot less far, I think, in areas like New York City, for example.
Sure, absolutely.
Your purchasing power, to get in a cab and to have your day in New York City can be easily, if you're cabbing around, $80, $90 just to get around.
And only for the cab.
Say it's a $200.
Nice.
Yeah, no, it's only for the cab.
I was going to say at least $200 doesn't go very far in New York City.
That's right.
I'm voting for the Denver area. I spent a lot of time skiing out in Colorado, and I have a
Not
feeling,
on the list.
I just think the Denver Boulder area is probably a good one for growth because of some of the things you're saying in terms of environment. And
I'm going to name them off for everybody. Wheeling, West Virginia was number
Yay.
4.
Interesting.
Mississippi, the Villages, Florida. I'm not exactly sure. I think that's.
Oh yeah, that's a hot place.
yeah.
Dr. Bart, you should know that. They advertise on Fox News all the time.
Central.
Central?
Central Florida. Yeah.
And Idaho Falls, Idaho.
Okay.
That's hot. No,
Yeah.
no, Idaho Falls, and I think it's a good example for the story and for the segment. They're all safe. They don't have to worry about guns. They don't have to worry about violence.
That's a good point.
And they don't have gun control. So, you know, citizens can take care of
weren't all
themselves.
those billionaires
take
just
care of
out in
their-
Idaho?
Yeah.
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 No, 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 no.
I think
These are
Idaho-
places
Sun Valley.
where people carry their guns, they take care of their property,
Well, now-
they make money, and
good
they don't
point.
have to worry about the gangbangers. I mean, seriously.
that's
I
a
mean, it's a
good
big
point.
difference. You have to be safe. Look, Giuliani did it. New York was a mess, and Giuliani came in, cleaned it up, and business was better. So I think safety is very, very important here.
All right. Well, we do want to thank our Skype guest, Dr. Ann Shiley, Chicago. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to be back with much more. The lightning round is next.